Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live, a middle of the night or early morning bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and yes, folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this middle of the night or early morning bonus upload, shall we? Today's first encounter. I totally understand if nobody believes this, because we are still unsure of what happened, but we sat down and came to the consensus on the events, and we all agree we witnessed the same thing. 3 of my buddies and myself were hiking in the San Bernardino National Forest, various trails, mostly known ones, and mostly during the day. We were making our way up to Clark Summit. As we were walking, one by one, we noticed that we were veering off the trail. I asked my friend in front of me why he was going off the trail, and he asked our friend who was in front of him the same thing. The friend in front of us told us, "I can hear a woman talking, you guys don't hear that." We didn't hear anything. We tried to convince her to leave it be, because it was already kind of dark, and we were close to where we wanted to set camp up on the trail. The friend in front was female, and insisted that she heard what sounded like a female calling for help, and that she sounded really close, so I think she felt inclined to investigate a possible female in distress, while we were totally okay with going about our business. Okay, I get a bit spooked now because she's absolutely serious, and we absolutely could not hear whatever she was hearing. Here's where it got weird. We only ventured off the trail about 300 to 400 meters, yet at one point we were completely lost. We don't have any fancy gear or GPS stuff because we've really never needed it, but we've been on this trail enough to know we had gone too far. Yet, we could not find the trail in any direction after walking about 15 to 20 minutes. I started to feel kind of weird, kind of dizzy, lightheaded, and when I mentioned this, the other 2 said they felt as weird as well. It was like something had changed in the environment around us or moved us somehow to another location. I have no idea which way to go, and now it's completely dark. My female friend said, "The woman's voice had said, 'I'm over here and please help.' She said it sounded like she was hurt or crying." So here we are, somehow lost after only walking for 20 minutes off a large trail because my friend is hearing voices. We decided to stop walking in any direction because the last thing you want to do at night is get even more lost. We had 2 tents and sleeping bags in our packs, so we found a clearing and set up. We figured once the sun was out, we'd easily find our way back to the trail. Before we could even lie down to rest, I noticed a tree near us was moving as if something was climbing it. It was really dark, and I wore glasses, so I really struggled to see. So I called my friends over to see. I thought it was an animal at first, but it was not an animal. It wasn't anything. I could see the outline of what roughly looked like a human shape, but it was transparent, like completely see-through. The best way I can describe it is the way heat waves look on pavement in the summer. You know, that wavy liquid effect. And they saw it as well. My male buddy said, "WTF are we looking at?" when he finally spotted it. They all said the same thing. It was transparent, but still visible due to the foliage around it being displaced and moved as it moved. We all just stood stone still, whispering theories back and forth as to what we thought we were seeing. I thought maybe it was some kind of optical illusion, but they thought immediately aliens, of course. The thing just sat there, perched on a large branch about 50 feet up. It's like it was watching us watch it. The other oddity is that after staring at this thing for about 10 minutes, we noticed all the normal forest sounds we had heard prior just stopped completely. I mean, the only noise was us talking and the leaves under our feet. The hairs on my neck stood on end, and I had goosebumps all over when I realized this, like something was truly wrong. After about 10 minutes of us standing there, whatever this thing was started to climb up the tree even more until we could no longer see it. We approached the base of the tree slowly and walked around in a circle, with our necks craned up trying to see this thing. It was too dark and the trees were too close for us to see at the top. We didn't hear it jump to another tree, so we assumed it was still up there. We were all too spooked, obviously, to camp right underneath whatever this was. So we gathered our crap and started walking toward the moon. I kid you not, after about 5 minutes of walking, we were back on the trail. I literally dropped my bag and said, "WTF" out loud. We all stood there confused, looking around, trying to confirm what we were seeing. My buddy likes to joke and said maybe we walked through some hallucinogenic spores and had imagined it all. I highly doubt that, but whatever happened, it seemed kind of, I guess, predatory. Like it seems something was luring us or trying to confuse us. My friend still thinks we were messing with her about not hearing the woman she claimed to hear. Was it that thing we saw imitating a woman? How did we get lost so close to the trail? This was easily the weirdest thing I have ever experienced in the wilderness. We still don't have a good theory as to whatever we saw. It may not have been an alien, but whatever it was humanoid and was 100% transparent. Somehow, and able to climb a really large tree with ease without making much noise. I would love to hear any theories about what this thing might have been. Oh yeah, I feel I should mention no drugs were consumed. Also, the picture during this encounter is where they were located. Today's second encounter. Hello everyone, I just wanted to get some opinions. To start off, I live in a rural part of eastern Tennessee. The closest grocery store is 20 miles from here. I'm pretty much surrounded by farmland. The area I live in has been known for decades for being haunted. Well, to cut a long story short, the land behind my home is all farmland. And for the past few months, I've been going outside to water my garden at night, and I hear strange noises coming from the field behind my house. I've heard what sounded like a woman screaming. I've heard someone saying, "Hey." I even thought I heard my mom say my name from the field before. My husband had heard a voice say his name on multiple occasions. But last night, my dog was barking and growling like crazy, so my husband went outside to look around and make sure nothing was out there. And he said he heard what sounded like a baby crying in the field, but he said it sounded very distorted and definitely not human. He ended up coming back in, and we went back out to listen, and the noise stopped. I'm really not sure what's going on. We live on Indian burial grounds. The whole area I'm in is basically an Indian burial ground, so I've heard. My husband's half Cherokee, and he said he just has a feeling it may be something to do with that. I just wanted to get a few opinions of what it could be, possibly, because it seems like it's getting braver. I know I should just write it off as mountain lion or something like that, but saying my name and my husband's name on different occasions makes me believe it's obviously not. Oh, and I forgot, this past winter we had some deep snow, and one morning I went out in the backyard and I saw these prints that looked like the toe part was a goat hoof and the back was the back of a high-heeled shoe. The print was about a foot long. I'm not sure what it could have been. Today's third encounter. I've always considered myself as having bad luck, and I've had multiple run-ins with the paranormal. This is the most terrifying encounter that I've ever had in my life. When I was 11, my dad had taken me and my younger brother deer hunting on a ranch in Alice, Texas. He had picked us up from our mom's house at 10 p.m. and we spent 2 hours driving to said ranch. When we got there, my granddad and older brother were waiting for us to unlock the gate to the entrance of the ranch. After a few minutes of cussing and keys rattling, the gate was open. We drove about 10 minutes to get to camp on a long and gloomy dirt road. When we got there, my dad unpacked his bag and mine, and I helped with my little brother, who was 7 at the time. He woke us up at 5 in the morning to get ready for hunting, and I drew the short end of the straw. I had to take my little brother with me. Now, I was not much of a complaining type, but when it came to my little brother back then, he was quite clumsy and noisy. Anyway, he walked us to one of the 4 or 5 deer blinds on the property and gave us a quick briefing on gun safety. Now you may be thinking that leaving a gun with an 11 and 7-year-old is not a smart idea. My dad had already enrolled me in a hunting program that included firearm safety. Back to the story. Once he gave us a briefing and my little brother had climbed into the blind, my dad handed me my rifle. Nothing too fancy, just a .22, something suited for a child to use. Not too much of a kick, but nonetheless, still a firearm that should be used properly. We must have sat there for 3 hours. The feeders were time-released, and the corn came out about every 30 minutes. There was some movement in the brush ahead. Out from the brush emerged a 10-point buck and 2 doe. My little brother had started to reach for my rifle, which I had propped against the wall. I carefully swatted his hand, and he looked up at me with his face that I can only describe as a mix between annoyance and anger. He slumped down in his chair, tears in his eyes, and his lip was quivering. I told him that I was sorry for hitting him at the time. I was conflicted with myself. Seeing my little brother like this just really didn't sit well with me, so I grabbed my rifle and I told him if a shot I'd see, what could I do? He just looked and nodded at me. As I aimed through the scope and had the buck in my crosshairs, the head snapped up from eating the corn off the ground, and so did the bucks. I assumed they must have heard me or my little brother, but I didn't remember him crying loudly or my rifle thudding against the wooden slot. No, it was something else. It wasn't because of me or my brother. I've seen this before in documentaries, their wide-eyed stare, their fixated eyes at the brush. It was like a switch, you know. The forest or brush booming with insects and birds chirping suddenly stopped, only the wind and occasional breathing from me or the deer. They say when the whole forest goes quiet, a big predator is about, but the only big predators we have this far down in South Texas are coyotes, especially on the ranch. The deer seemed to snap out of their trance and ran off in the opposite direction from where they came from. I sat back down with my little brother, who had fallen asleep, propped my rifle against the wall, double-checked that it was steady, and the door was locked with the bolt in and the padlock secured. Hours passed. It was late evening. We were about to get out of the blind when my brother tugged my arm and pointed at something near the feeder. I looked back and saw something large and bulky on all fours sniffing loudly at the feeders, assuming it was a wild boar, which are present on the ranch. I grabbed my rifle and sat down in my chair and took aim. Between the fading sunlight and the lack of lighting in the blind, I could barely make out a thing. But as the moon came out, I got a better look at it. And no, it was not your typical full moon bullcrap about werewolves. It was a waxing gibbous, and it was enough to light a figure. While I was staring at this thing, chills ran up my spine. What I originally thought was a boar was a large dog. It had the head of a German shepherd, but much bigger. Its upper torso was just like a man's, but covered in dark black fur. Its ears were sharp and perked like a dog's, its muzzle exactly like a canine should be. Out of nowhere, this thing just stands up on its hind legs and starts sniffing the air. I looked at my brother, who was white as a ghost and tears running down his face. When I looked back at it, it was in front of the window of the blind peeking in. Its long yellow teeth dripping in saliva and a substance I couldn't see at the time. Its eyes were a piercing yellow, and I swear I saw it smile. Sometimes there's things science cannot explain, nor our brains can for certain. This was on. After minutes, which felt like an eternity, it started walking around the blind, its loud, heavy footsteps circling the blind, claws dragging across the wooden walls, and its loud, unnoticeably sniffing. After 5 minutes, the footsteps stopped, and I heard a loud thud on the blind. It was on the roof. The blind was at least 5 feet tall, and the thing was tall, if not taller than it, to be able to peek through the window. I took my rifle off safety and took aim at the roof and shot. I hit something as a blood-curdling howl erupted from the rooftop. Then a loud thud and a quick, heavy footsteps running toward the brush. A few minutes later, our dad picked us up, and we told him about our experience. He just told us we were seeing things, eyes merely playing tricks. But we insisted, so he checked the trail cams. The one near our blind, he saw reflected eyes near the blind. Most people know canine eyes reflect light in the dark, and most predators' eyes do so. He thought it was a coyote, but he quickly realized the eyes were massive. After a few days we left, and I've never had another run-in with one since. Today's fourth encounter. Something's been keeping an eye on my boyfriend when he goes out at night. The video at the end of this is him catching the noise it makes. It was recorded in Rochester, New York. These woods aren't huge, sprawling acres of unexplored area. I can walk from one end to the other in a few hours. It sits behind a set of 4 neighborhoods as well as an elementary school. They continuously travel during the day. We don't regularly have big cats, boars, wolves, or bear in this area. It's very rare, and if one were seen, it would be common knowledge among the residents being so close to an elementary school. With that being said, across the street from where it's seen starts acres and acres of farmland, woods, and houses miles apart. It only comes around when my boyfriend is present. He hears constant strange noises, screams, screeches outside, solo howls, howls by what sounds like packs of wolves on full moons, and a feeling of absolute dread on a nightly basis. I have felt this dread, but have never had anything strange happen to me unless he's with me. He's always had unclaimed spiritual senses, mainly through dreams. I don't know if that would have anything to do with this. Anyway, this particular being has only been heard between 1 and 3 a.m. in general, the same area. You can't really tell in the video, but it's very loud. When he walks our dog, you can hear it running through the woods parallel to us. It sounds very large and very fast and sometimes bipedal. Our dog also does not like this area. She tries to run around and go home or bite her leash and try to get away. In the video, you can hear it in the water splashing around. It does not sound small. To my boyfriend, it sounded like something being dragged through the water. Also, if you listen closely when he says, "That's what made the noise," you can hear it make a deep guttural grunt. And it's always moving towards us, not away. The grunt, and not fleeing, really solidifies it to me that this isn't a deer, fox, or any mammal I am familiar with that splits at the sight of a human. Along with the video, there is another clip of rocks being thrown at my boyfriend on a bridge. And on a trail cam, there's a strange-shaped creature stalking a very large coyote.
Jesus! Dude, I'm gonna pass out.
Today's fifth encounter. My husband used to have an explosive temper. He's quelled it. It'll be an important part of this. We were leaving our friend's campsite in an area we were pretty unfamiliar with. We get to this weird split where there's a 5-way, and the GPS is not super clear because backwoods Kentucky. We ultimately make a wrong turn, but the GPS is silent, so we keep going. Husband says we need to turn around. The GPS flashed quickly and set a new route. I said, let's just go. It got a route. Let's just get out of here. It's only like 10 minutes further. So this road is kind of swooshy, twisty, and turny. We're in a Nissan Armada that we rented. Usually if my husband were mad, he'd be speeding through the hills like a madman trying to get out of there. But he wasn't. We were talking it through and keeping him calm, and he was taking the corners extra slow because there was massive drop-offs with no guardrails. Oncoming traffic whips around the corners at us. It was scary. So we went slowly. We come around this particularly sharp bend with a hill in the middle of it, and we see these two dogs lying down. It looks like the kind that you'd see as statues at the end of a driveway, except they were laying perpendicular on a dirt driveway, and they did not move. They don't move, and then their eyes catch our headlights. As our headlights hit them, we realize, my son, husband, and myself, that the dogs are identical. Remember, we were taking these corners slowly, so we got a good long look, especially me, because they were on my side, identical. Anyways, as our headlights hit their eyes, they stood up at the exact same time, and like a marching band, started on the same paw, walking toward the car at the same time. I'm having massive amounts of chills just typing this out. So, it was a super sharp left where the dogs were. As we were going on the adjacent right turn, I'm still looking at the dogs because they're right outside of my door. I was transfixed and creeped out. I look forward again just in time to see something run across the street. I yelled, "Deer," instinctively. But when I thought about it, it was no deer. Deer don't move that fast. I've seen plenty of deer crossing a road. My husband got a better look at it as he wasn't looking at the dogs, and he said it looked like something super emaciated, maybe hunched over on 4 legs. It was fast, too. I just saw 4 legs in a flash. My son said it had glowing green eyes. Freaked me out. It took us another 45 minutes to get back to some sort of main highway, and it was just hairpin, windy, twisty the whole way. So my husband was going super slow. We were freaked out. I just kept talking very slow in a low voice because I couldn't even start the Spotify on my phone without messing the GPS. So no music, no happiness, just freaked out driving in backwoods Kentucky. Thankfully, we made it out. Oh, and I did see 2 deer. They ran out in front of us. But what we saw prior to that was no deer. All right, folks, I hope you all enjoyed this middle of the night or early morning bonus upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that helps this channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly what gives people a place to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, ridicule and judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.